My name is Diane Blair. I'm with the Dallas Fly Fishers. I'm also active with Casting for Recovery in North Texas, which is a women's fly casting retreat that we put on for women who are in all stages of breast cancer. I'm going to tie today Michael Verduin's Mite Hellgramite, and it's a sinking fly and a weighted fly. The only weight we use is a bead chain eye. We use a little bit of black schlappen feather, some long bladed estaz, and you want to try to get the long blade as opposed to a short bladed estaz. You want something that's very leggy and buggy. Pay attention to that. We use some black Swiss straw or raffia, and then of course your hook, and those are the only materials. And so let's get started. So we're going to start out with a Mustad 3366 hook. This is pretty much an all-purpose hook. A lot of fly tyers will have this in many sizes, but I'm using a size 4. Michael Verduin developed this fly over the last few months of his life. And he tied it during the last few months of his life, and he worked really hard to get it to look as much like a real Hellgramite as he possibly could. He used the book Fishing with, I won't show the book. He used the book Fishing with Live Bait to look at the pictures, and then he went about constructing this fly as lifelike as possible. So we're going to start out with a piece of black fur zonker, and I'm just going to take my bodkin and poke a hole in the end of this zonker. And I'm just making a little pilot hole there into which I'm going to put the tip of the hook. And the reason he did this is so that when this hook is riding hook up, this tail is not going to wrap around the hook point. It's going to lay flatter. So it's you put the hook in leather side first, and then it's going to ride hook up. So now we'll put the hook in the vise just in the normal position and flip it upside down. If you don't have a rotary vise, then you can just put your hook in the vise upside down. Okay, I'm going to take black thread and just start my thread. And cut out the tag end and wrap down to the tie-in point for this rabbit strip tail. And I started out with about 2 inches of rabbit strip here, but really you can use about 1.5 inches. And then we're gonna cut that to a point later on. But for now, let's just catch it in. And then run the thread back up a ways. So there's your rabbit strip tail. The next material you want to put in is about a 2-inch piece of black raffia. And just tie this in right there on top of the tie-in point where you tied in the rabbit strip. Okay. The next material we're going to use is a black schlappen feather, and these are quite they're quite wide. They're soft. You don't want to use a rooster feather that has real springy barbs. You want to use something very soft, and this is about a perfect one right here. I'm going to take this and use a technique that Michael taught me years ago called folding a feather. You're going to take this feather and just grab it by the tip end, and then find a place on your vise. You might want to move over here. Find a place on your vise where you can hang that hackle plier, and then take some scissors or your pocket knife, something with a machine rounded edge, and just run it over the top of this feather. And it's going to feel like a zipper. You're just going to feel that little zip, and all you're doing is breaking the back of that feather and tenting those fibers down This makes this feather a lot easier to tie in because you already have the fibers in the position that you want them as you're tying it in. See how that's tinted away? So take it off of your hackle plier and just tie it in as the next material on your hook. Just going to put the edge there, catch it once. I'm going to run my thread back up towards the eye and take off the excess feather. Okay. Now the last material we're going to tie in here is going to be that long bladed estaz, and you need a piece about, let's see, measure these. You need a piece about 6 inches long because you're going to really build a fly up with this material. So tie this in. Back at the tie-in point. And none of this has to be very pretty, although when Michael did it, I'm sure it just was exquisite, but it's all going to be covered up. Now run your thread back up to about an eye width length from the eye. And there was one material I forgot to tell you about, and that is, oh no I didn't, I told you about it. That's the bead chain eyes, and all we did with these was dip them in enamel paint, but you can buy black bead chain, but you need about a 4mm bead chain eye. And we're going to take those and tie them in on the top of the hook. So we're going to rotate this whole thing around and tie the bead chain on so that the front of the bead chain approximately meets the back of the eye. You don't want them all the way forward of the eye, you just want them a little bit back because you're going to tie some materials in front of them later on. So tie them on with a good figure 8. And then a way to tighten your figure 8s, you can just come under one side and up, under the other side and up, and this tightens those threads and pulls them down tight onto the shaft of the hook. You can also take a dot of head cement at this point and cement those eyes so that they don't move around on you. Okay, here's the material I didn't tell you about. This is the secret ingredient. All this is a little O-ring. You can get them at the hardware store, at Lowe's or Home Depot. But this is the material that Michael searched for forever to get the perfect pinchers on this fly. And all you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors and clip out about 20%, even less probably, maybe 10% of that O-ring. Kind of clip towards the curve so that you come out with pointed ends. You're going to take that O-ring, turn your fly back over so you're tying on the bottom of the hook. You're going to tie this in behind the eyes. And you want these pinchers to touch the eyes and point roughly down in that direction. That's what you want to end up with. So however you figure 8 these, you want them to end up pointing a little bit down. And if they don't want to play, you can manhandle them and get them down. Okay, once you've got them tied in, go ahead and advance your thread so that you end up in front of the eyes, behind the eye of the hook. Now you're going to start to wrap your materials forward. First you're going to take your estaz and you're going to turn that and go forward with it about 3 turns, and then go back over top of it about 2 turns and come back forward again, and ending up with 2 turns between the pinchers and the eyes. So pull those pinchers away, bring that estaz around for 2 turns. Once you've got 2 turns between the pinchers and the eyes, just bring it below the eyes and catch it with your thread with a couple of turns right behind the eye of the hook. Okay, and we'll cut off the excess. Here's a tip too here's a tip that Michael gave me. When you're cutting your materials off, if you put your finger between the thread and what you're cutting and cut, you will never cut off your thread and have it fall to the tying table. It's just an easy way to keep from doing that. Okay, so now you're going to take your next material, which is your slap and feather, and you're just going to take 4 turns along your fly. You don't want it real bushy, just 4 turns, the last turn being between the pinchers and the eyes. So here's 1, here's 2, 3, and then pull your pinchers apart and put that last turn right behind the eyes. Again, bring that below, catch it with your thread, and tie that material off. Okay, and again, I'm going to put my finger between my thread and my materials that I'm cutting so that I'm not risking cutting off that thread. Okay, the last material you're going to tie on is this black Swiss straw, or raffia, and I kind of spread it apart a little bit because what you're making is a shell back. Just lay it over. And catch it on that eye. Okay. Got 2 turns over that. I'm going to cut off the excess. Kind of trim a couple of these little front ones off. Push that back. And then just finish it with a neat thread head. I've kind of crowded the eye here, so I'm just pushing it back, pinching my fingernails in there so that I can reveal that eye of the hook. Nothing worse than trying to tie a fly on in the middle of the stream and you've crowded the head and you can't find the eye. I'm just going to take a half hitch tool, add a few half hitches. There we go. Cut your thread, and there it is. Add head cement, or not if you're a purist and you don't want a fish to smell them. And there it is, Michael's Mighty Mite. The last thing I'm going to do, though, is, and this is something that Michael always did with his rabbit strip tails, he always pointed the leather. He just felt like it looked more elegant and more finished. So I'm going to take off about half of this because it needs to be shorter. So I'm just going to take my scissors and clip in here, make it a point, and there's your finished fly.